Alright, hi, welcome back. My name's Matt with Jaggers Brewing Co. Just like to thank you for dropping by and checking us out again. This part of the series is going to be kettle side chats. I've got a mash going on in here right now. While I wait for it to mash in, I figured it'd be a good time to just do a quick little something and talk about a few things. Today's topic is going to be no chill. First off, you'll have to excuse the surroundings today. It's pretty hot down here in Gulf Coast, Texas. It's currently showing to be 100 degrees outside under this canopy. It's right at 11 o'clock in the morning. You'll have to also excuse two other issues. First and foremost is the cicadas in the trees. So the trees are screaming this time of year due to all the cicadas talking and all that. Second of all, you'll have to excuse the rooster. We have a small little, what we like to consider a homestead here. We've got some chickens, got a decent sized garden, and so we're just trying to do a few things. So with all that said, let's get down to business here. So no chill brewing, or no chill post boil. What is that all about? So basically the principle is that you're not going to chill the wort down to pitching temperature as soon as possible. You're going to let nature take over. But to be able to do that, you need a couple precautions, or you need to do a few things to be able to try it out. First and foremost, you need to be as completely clean and sanitary as possible. You make sure that your kettle or whatever vessel that you're going to be putting your wort in is completely clean and sanitary inside and out, so that way you don't attract bugs or bacteria or any kind of wild yeast to be able to get into that kind of vessel or around it. So when you chill your wort, what you're trying to do is you're trying to beat the bacteria and wild yeast to fermenting your wort, your beer, before you pitch your yeast. And there's a lot of theories behind that, and I kind of am of the rule that there's no single right way to do anything, especially when it comes to brewing. So far, I've been very lucky. I haven't had any problems with any kind of infections or anything like that. So what I have done, especially since I have gotten this kettle, is once I approach the end of boil, I throw my lid on and I just bring it inside. I set it up nice and high in a clean place and let it come down naturally through the temperature ranges that are necessary for fermentation. Normally I try to get it to about 80 degrees or so, and then I'll transfer it into the fermenter and let it come down to the rest of those 10 degrees. Generally speaking, with no chill brewing, you don't want to really get to 24 hours after you have boiled before you pitch your yeast. Then you're just really increasing your risk of an infection or spontaneous fermentation, which may be a good thing, may not be a good thing, but it may not. It's probably not what the desired outcome that you're shooting for. There's a lot of pros and cons to this, some of which I'm probably not even going to be able to reach upon today. I've got some notes here in my notebook of some of the basic ones or some of the easier ones to be able to take into consideration if you're thinking about doing this, if you've never tried to do it or whatever. The cons of this is you've definitely increased your risk of fermentation for sure. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even if you want to pretend that there's no way possible, there is always the chance. There's always the chance of some kind of infection, even when you do chill down. you may be able to get away with doing it with the equipment that you have on hand. As I said, once I'm done with my boil here, I just let it come down naturally, and then I transfer into the fermenter, which I already would have on hand, to be able to do that. Once it reaches about the 80-degree threshold, that's when I'll bring it out of this vessel. You have to watch time and temperature. So you have to be aware of what's going on the rest of your brew day, the rest of your brew week. Typically, I'm about 12 hours or so from the time that I pull it from boil to the time that I'm about ready to pitch yeast, or thereabouts. Summertime, it normally takes me just a little bit longer, maybe 13, 14 hours or so. So, you know, if we've got something that's coming up the day after I mash in, or the day after I brew, you know, I've got to be aware of that. I might have to move my brew day, or I might have to just, you know, take an early lunch from work and come home real quick to pitch yeast or something like that. So another con that I have is the hop bitterness, or the effectiveness. So if you throw your hops in and you don't have a hop basket, that might give you a little bit more bitterness, or it might change your alpha acids or IBUs. It might change your IBUs usage in the wort because they're sitting in there a little bit longer. I typically use a hop basket. That way I can make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do to keep as much material out of my beer that I don't have to try to filter out or clean out later. Also because, you know, we have chickens, hops are good for chickens. I'll throw everything in that hop basket. Hop basket is kind of a pain in the butt though to deal with, so there's a whole argument about that, about, you know, if you're saving a lot of time, why wouldn't you just go ahead and eliminate the hop basket too? I'd like to go back and point out to everybody does something a little bit different. There's no one way, there's no one perfect way to brew. So the first pro that I have listed here is that it's a time saver. You know, I can turn off my bowl, I can move my kettle in, I can let it come down naturally, and then I can move on to another job at our little homestead setup. You know, as I previously discussed, you know, there's always chickens to deal with, or grass that needs to be cut, or something that needs to be done in the garden, moving mulch, or even just spending time with the kids, maybe helping getting dinner going, or go run an errand. You know, to me, I spent a lot of time trying to chill down my wort to get it to pitching temperature, be it ice bath, be it immersion chiller. I haven't tried the wort chiller or counterflow chillers yet. That's something that I mean to get. But that kind of goes into the next point that I want to make about a pro is, you know, you don't have all that equipment, all that extra equipment that you have to make sure that's sanitary, that's clean. You don't have to have a place to store all that stuff. You know, if you're just doing it in your kettle and then you're going into your fermenter, well, you already have that stuff anyways, you know. So it might be another, this might be one of those tips to kind of just break into brewing cheaply or cost effectively, or something of that nature, as long as you're aware of the risk or the negatives that come along with it. Another pro that I have listed is you don't have to deal with like water wasting or anything like that, like with an immersion chiller or with like a wort chiller. All that water that you're using to cool the wort down to get it as close to pitching temperature, it's got to go somewhere. I've used the immersion chiller a couple times, well, several times actually, and the output hose, it always ends up going flying everywhere, spraying somebody with water or something like that. You know, I've tried a couple things, and I haven't found a system that worked, other than when I brewed on the stovetop I could take that hose and kind of wedge it there in the drain of the sink, and everything would be good there. But you still have the water waste. Another thing that another deal with the immersion chiller was, for whatever reason, the inlet, sometimes the outlet would leak water directly into your wort, and so, you know, a lot of times this is unsanitized water, and so you're going to introduce unsanitized water into your wort. You know, it's not that you will, it's just there's the potential of that happening. I've had a few leaks sometimes that are all of a sudden. Didn't matter if it was with the garden hose, or I tried one of those little pond pumps, wiring that in. But then if you're doing that, not only do you have a waste of water, but you know, you're using electricity too. So you know, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, if I do this, I don't use any electricity, I'm not really using any water. I let the air that I'm already going to be cooling my house down with So I'm letting the air that I'm already going to be cooling my house down with cool this kettle. Again, it's a slow process, but there it is, you know. Another benefit is, so if you've got a kettle with a valve on the bottom to be able to drain the kettle, you'll end up aerating your wort. And so what I like to do is, if it's right at pitching temperature, I'll go ahead and I'll drain just a little bit of wort off into the fermenter, and then I'll pitch yeast on top of that. Well, then what I'll do is I'll just crack that valve open after I've pitched my yeast and that little bit of wort, and it'll aerate it that way. I've gotten some really big, thick, frothy bubbles on there to where it touches the top of the fermenter lid, and so fermentation seems to kind of kick off a little quicker. You know, you get it good mixed up there. It seems like it kind of decreases some of the lag time when pitching yeast for myself. Granted, I did waste some time waiting for it to come down naturally, but you know, give and take. So that's one of the processes that we use around here when brewing. Like I said, knock on wood, haven't had any issues as far as any infections or anything like that. So far so good. Thanks for stopping by, we really appreciate it. Comment below if you've had any experiences, good or bad, with no chill brewing. I'd like to hear them. You know, I think everybody, like I said, has some kind of different experience with it. I would like to note though that with the no chill, well, never mind, I've lost that train of thought. See you guys later. Thanks. Repeating myself. Yeah, I think that's it. If you've got any tips or tricks when it comes